My useless dad told me to stay out of his business. Then he blamed me when his whole life fell apart. My dad loved bragging about being the family patriarch. At every holiday, he'd give speeches about keeping the family together. The truth was, I did everything. Sent birthday cards in his name, organized every holiday, remembered every important date, mediated every conflict. At a barbecue last month, I mentioned the Christmas venue I'd booked, and my dad snapped in front of everyone. Stop acting like you're in charge. You're a child. This is my family. Stay out of my business. So I was like, okay, bet. 2 weeks later, I was doing homework when my dad's phone rang. His sister was sobbing. It was her 50th birthday, and she hadn't heard from him. He said, oh, happy birthday. I've been really busy with important things. She said, I'm your sister. You've called me every year for 20 years. He said, well, maybe you need to stop being so needy about birthdays. She hung up crying. My grandma called the next day. She said, your sister is devastated. What's happening to you? He said, nothing is happening to me. Everyone else is being too sensitive. She said, you've never been cruel like this. He said, I'm not being cruel. I'm being honest. 3 weeks later, my aunt called screaming. My cousin's bar mitzvah was the next day, and my dad never RSVP'd. He told her, I have a life. I can't keep track of every little party. She said, it's your nephew's bar mitzvah. He said, then you should have reminded me personally. She said, I sent you 5 messages. He said, if it was important, I would have remembered. He hung up on her crying. At the bar mitzvah, my dad showed up late with no gift. My cousin looked crushed. My grandma pulled him aside and said, you're embarrassing yourself. He said, this is exactly who I am. Everyone else just expects too much. 2 weeks later, my grandma had surgery and my dad didn't call her. She called our house crying. She said, does your father hate me? I said, no, grandma. He's just being awful right now. When my dad got home, I told him grandma called crying. He said, she had minor surgery. She's fine. I said, you didn't call her at all. He said, because she's being dramatic. It was knee surgery, not a heart transplant. The Thanksgiving group chat exploded with questions. My dad ignored everyone for days. Finally, my uncle called. My dad put it on speaker. My uncle said, we need to know the Thanksgiving plan. My dad said, why is that my problem? You're all adults. Figure it out yourself. My uncle said, you coordinate it every year. My dad said, well, maybe I'm tired of doing everything for people who don't appreciate it. He hung up. Over the next few weeks, my dad got worse. He told my aunt her kids were spoiled brats. He told my uncle he was sick of the family being so demanding. Christmas morning, I heard cars and looked outside. 20 family members were arriving. I went downstairs and watched my dad answer the door in sweatpants. My aunt walked in with food and said, where's the turkey? My dad said, what turkey? Everyone started coming in. My dad's face went white. My uncle said, you texted us the whole plan 3 weeks ago. My dad said, I never texted anyone. My aunt showed him the text from his phone. My dad looked at me and said loudly, you did this. Why didn't you tell me? I said, tell you what? He said, that everyone was coming. This is your fault. My grandma said, why would it be her fault? My dad said, because she's the one who texted you all. I pulled out my phone. You're right. I did text them, just like I've texted everyone for 3 years from your phone. Every birthday card you thought dad sent, I wrote them every holiday he planned. I coordinated it. Every time he called to check on you, I reminded him. My aunt's face changed. My dad said, she was just helping me. I said, I stopped helping when you told me to stay out of your business. Everything you've said to this family in the last 2 months, that was actually you. I looked at my grandma. When you had surgery and he didn't call, that was him. When he told Aunt Linda her kids are spoiled brats, him. When he told Uncle Mike the family is too demanding, all him. My uncle said, you've been taking credit for your daughter's work this whole time? My dad said, I didn't know she was doing all that. I said, yes, you did. You just didn't care because it meant you could give speeches about being the great family man. My aunt looked at my dad with disgust. You hung up on me when I was crying. You called my son's bar mitzvah a little party. My grandma started crying. I thought something was wrong with you, but this is just who you are when no one's making you look good. My dad said, you're all turning on me because of her lies. My uncle said, these aren't lies. We heard what you said to us. We just didn't know your kid was making you seem like a decent person before. My dad had to apologize in front of everyone. Now the family coordinates directly with me and treats my dad like the useless person he is.